Welcome to the Instagram stories for Friday, December 1st. I'm your host, Daniel Hill, and this is the weekend edition of the Instagram stories. The news today has to do with a lot of legal things, so let's dive right in. Dozens of states have sued Meta, accusing the company of putting profit ahead of the safety of its young users. The lawsuit, which was filed in a California federal court, argues that Meta unlawfully misled the public about the harms its products, like Facebook and Instagram, would cause on children and teenagers. By implementing a business model that was all about maximizing time on the platform, Meta contributed to a youth mental health crisis based on this lawsuit. Here's a quote from the lawsuit itself, quote, "Over the past decade, Meta has profoundly altered the psychological and social realities of a generation of young Americans," end quote. The complaint goes on to allege that Meta knowingly rolled out features and platform incentives that promote harmful behaviors to young viewers, including allowing likes on posts and failing to remove content related to disordered eating and bullying. A Meta spokesperson responded to these allegations saying, quote, "We share the Attorney General's commitment to providing teens with safe, positive experiences online and have already introduced more than 30 tools to support teens and their families. We're disappointed that instead of working productively with companies across the industry to create clear, age-appropriate standards for the many apps teens use, the attorneys general have chosen this path," end quote. You may remember the Facebook whistleblower who I talked about at length a while ago now, Frances Haugen, and a lot of this lawsuit is based on the information that Frances Haugen leaked back in 2021. The complaint says, quote, "Meta has harnessed powerful and unprecedented technologies to entice, engage, and ultimately ensnare youth and teens. It has concealed the ways in which these platforms exploit and manipulate the most vulnerable consumers, teenagers and children. And it has ignored the sweeping damage these platforms have caused to the mental and physical health of our nation's youth," end quote. I will link to this lawsuit so you can check it out for yourself. Interestingly, the state I live in, New Jersey, is among the states who are bringing forth this lawsuit, including New York and California. There's a lot of them. I'm not going to read all of them, but definitely worth checking out. There's some other legal news for not just Meta, but other social media platforms as well, including X, formerly known as Twitter, TikTok, Snap, and even Discord. I will get to that after the break.
I'm Josh Klein.
And I'm Elise Hu.
We host a podcast from Accenture called Built for Change.
Every part of every business is being reinvented right now. That means companies are facing brand new pressures to use fast evolving technologies and address shifting consumer expectations.
But with big changes come even bigger opportunities. We've talked with leaders from every corner of the business world to learn how they're harnessing change to totally reinvent their companies.
And how you can do it too.
Subscribe to Built for Change now so you don't miss an episode.
And we're back. Let's continue with the legal news. Some of the biggest names in tech are going to be testifying before the U.S. Senate on January 31st, 2024, during a hearing all about online child exploitation. In an announcement on Wednesday, the Senate Judiciary Committee said it will hear from CEO of Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, CEO of X, formerly known as Twitter, Linda Yaccarino, CEO of TikTok, Shou Chew, Snapchat CEO Evan Spiegel, and Discord CEO Jason Citron. Subpoenas were issued earlier this month to the CEOs of Twitter, Snapchat, and Discord after receiving, quote, "repeated refusals to appear during several weeks of negotiations," end quote. Mark Zuckerberg and Shou Chew, CEO of TikTok, voluntarily agreed to testify. The senators who have issued this subpoena have said that the whole point of this is to give the CEOs the chance to, quote, "testify about their failure to protect children online," end quote. The senators who filed this subpoena released a joint statement saying, quote, "We've known from the beginning that our efforts to protect children online would be met with hesitation from big tech. They are finally being forced to acknowledge their failures when it comes to protecting kids. Now that all 5 companies are cooperating, we look forward to hearing from their CEOs. Parents and kids demand action," end quote. And lastly, let's do some TikTok news. The media outlet called The Information is reporting, quote, "In late October, TikTok invited dozens of creators to its New York office for a private event aimed at mobilizing them to create more videos at least a minute long. TikTok executives told the creators that by embracing longer videos, they can make more money and have more time to get their messages out. End quote. I think the longer video concept is a bit challenging. If you want to reuse your content, for instance, you want to post the same videos on Instagram that you do on TikTok, Instagram has a 90-second time limit on Reels videos, whereas TikTok does not have that 90-second limit. You can go 3 minutes and perhaps even up to 10 minutes, depending on what kind of account you have. The article continues, quote, TikTok told creators that users are now spending half their time on the app watching content that's longer than a minute. And over the past 6 months, creators who post videos longer than a minute have 5 times the growth rate in followers of those who post only short videos, end quote. I think there's a really interesting dichotomy here. On one side, you have Instagram Reels, which do better the shorter they are from what I've seen. That 6 to 15 seconds max is the window that you want to look at for maximum reach in the algorithm based on what I've seen and read. However, now TikTok on the other side of the spectrum is saying longer videos are where it's at. It's very strange to me that you need different strategies for each platform that has the same type of video content, but that's what makes these platforms so fun. I'll just go with fun for this moment. That is going to do it for today's episode. As always, thank you so much for listening. And if you have a moment, please tell somebody else about the show, somebody who's into tech news, somebody who needs to know about social media strategy. And every time the platforms add a feature, share the show with them. I would really appreciate it.
Instagram news got you covered, sometimes even TikTok. Relevant platforms in the metaverse ahead of the wave, without a break or a pit stop. Still waiting for Zuckerberg to give me the big job. Pause. Use trademarks and logos with Insta's permission, of course. If you like the show and you gain some good info, maybe leave a review. It's a type of applause. Just drop me a message if you want to collab. If you got some good content or you want to run ads, at Daniel Hill Media is where I am. TikTok, Facebook and Instagram.